Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, political analyst Derek Ramsuj says Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar must abandon what he described as her Trump-like and egotistical approach to CARICOM and accept that Trinidad and Tobago is no longer the regional superpower it once was. Now, don't get me wrong, Trump at times really does overdo it. And I'm not saying that Kamala Persad-Bissessar cannot be a little more diplomatic when pertaining to certain issues at times, but not in this case. And not in most cases recently. Not in most cases recently, because CARICOM showed our Prime Minister complete and utter disrespect. It was not the voting process to vote to elect the new chairperson of CARICOM was not on the agenda, as another political analyst clearly stated a couple days ago. So the Prime Minister has all rights to be offended and upset at what took place. And Trinidad and Tobago still contributes significantly to funding CARICOM. And therefore, we still have leverage. We still have authority. We still have a certain amount of power and influence. And if it is the CARICOM tribals who love communists and jihadists throughout the Caribbean, don't like America, and don't like Trump, and don't like Kamala Persad-Bissessar, then it's best we get out of CARICOM, you know. Because at the end of the day, what are we going to do? Continue allowing them to treat us as though we are some minor part of the entire treaty? No, that is complete and utter disrespect that has been taking place for quite a while now. And people like Gonzalez, who lost his elections, want to talk about embarrassment. It wasn't embarrassing that you lost you lost in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Wasn't an embarrassment. You want to talk, but stay as an opposition and relax yourself and keep out of people's business, in my opinion. But my response online. The Kakash media continues to highlight ridiculous statements being made by individuals who appear to be tribal jihadists and communist sympathizers or even supporters, maybe even members. Nothing is wrong with Kamala's Trump-like style of governance, as long as you know to still, don't overdo it and make certain type of statements. We all tell Trump sometimes that he's overdoing it as well, even though we agree with most of his policies that he puts in place. But it's most of the times he's right, and most of the times he's very right for being very aggressive towards the mainstream leftist radical media. Nobody could blame him for that, just like Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her administration can blame them either for how they interact with the very, very hostile PNM, Kakash media here in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say Kamala should be commended for her courage, strength, wisdom, boldness, and conservative-leaning values. I would never claim that she's a complete conservative. Matter of fact, in my opinion, the only way it could be a complete conservative is if you are born-again Christian that holds on to true conservative values and principles. And that's why I named my channel Real Conservative News, because there are a lot of conservatives outside here. And they're not truly conservative. Matter of fact, a lot of them tolerate a lot of what takes place on the left, unnatural types of lifestyles, and even using marijuana and stuff like that. Some of them approve of that when I don't. I don't approve of using any type of drug whatsoever. So at the end of the day, that's why I named my channel Real Conservative News, because I base my values on biblical standards. That doesn't make me a perfect Christian. I say and do things that not Christian-like or whatsoever. But my values are based on sound biblical doctrine. Well, getting back to my comments there, I said Kamala should be commended for her courage, strength, wisdom, boldness, and conservative-leaning values. Neither Trump nor Kamala are perfect, as I said at the beginning of this. But they are 100% better at leading, our respective nations than the radical left PNM and DNC, the jihadist, radical, leftist, communist PNM, and the Democrat Party in the United States of America. While Antigua and Barbuda supports TNT's upcoming bid for a seat on the United Nations Security Council, former St. Vincent Prime Minister, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, I'll now mention about him in the end, right, believes TNT's bid would embarrass CARICOM due to this country's listen to this, pro-United States position. Similarly, former United Nations Ambassador Rodney Charles has cited the challenge TNT may face to get the UNSC seat, where Brazil, Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, and some CARICOM members may have concerns. Cuba must have concerns because Cuba is controlled by a communist regime. Colombia is extremely corrupt. And Brazil, oh gosh, well, Brazil, we all know at this point in time is being controlled also by a far-left radical. This as TNT bids for a non-permanent seat on the UNSC in a June 3rd election. Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers recently said TNT has secured the support of more than 100 countries, including CARICOM states, in its bid. The 15-member UNSC has 5 permanent members: China, Russia, France, US, and UK. 3 out of 2 are supposedly democracies. I'm talking about France, US, and UK. Nowadays, the UK under the radical left party right now that is in government is moving like a jihadist state. Not even just a communist state, but a jihadist state. And France, well, I'm not really sure about France right about now. I think at times they tend to be much more on the leftist side right now. And then definitely Russia and China. How on earth? Why on earth did these global leaders decide to have these kind of individuals part of their treaty from since back in, whether it was the 1940s or 50s or whatsoever? It would never made sense to begin with, because these are extremists you're dealing with. And yet you have them as permanent members of the United Nations. But anyhow, and then 10 non-permanent seats. My response, of course, the radical leftists will say that TNT's conservative leaning pro-American government will embarrass all the tribal communist supporters in the region. That's okay, buddy. That's okay, Gonsalves. As I said, you know what you're supposed to be focused on? How you lost the elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's what you're supposed to be embarrassed about. Prime Minister Kamala isn't afraid to stand alone, and many of us here in TNT stand in solidarity with her. And at the end of the day, people will say, but just a few months ago, you were condemning the Kamala Prasad administration. I haven't changed my opinion on those particular issues. I still don't agree with the new fees and fines and doubling of these fees and fines, and even the imposing of new taxes like the landlord tax. I believe they should have been just enforced the income tax on these individuals. Once you're making earning a certain amount of income over whether it's the 75,000 or the 90,000 or whatever limit, let them pay an income tax. There was no need for these different things. And also, I don't agree with the imposing of an SOE in order to combat crime, which is a long-term issue. That doesn't mean I don't agree with most of the policies that are being implemented by the United National Congress and the Kamala Prasad administration. And I've made that clear throughout all my disagreements with them. I've made it clear that they're still governing the country far better than the People's National Movement. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries welcomes Manatee Plus. Rudal Munilal, MP, Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, said on April 12th, 2026, Shell Trinidad and Tobago successfully conducted a planned heavy haul operation along the Guayari-Mayaro corridor to transport oversized industrial equipment, specifically a gas separator and cross-island pipeline drum from Galeota Port to the Beachfield facility. These works ensured the bridge met the required safety and load-bearing standards necessary to accommodate the heavy haul. I wish to thank the Minister of Works and Infrastructure and her team for their quick response to several requests for the logistical assistance, he went on to say. The Manatee Plus project being undertaken by Shell represents one of the major projects for which we are eagerly anticipating first gas. Following discussions with Shell, we were able to increase the production expected from this project. And as mandated by the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Prasad, we await Zami Young's press conference to say, that is all because of me. PNM, of course, and maybe the former Emperor Rowley as well. They had so many ideas, They had 10 years and didn't implement anything. And then, of course, a lot of these things were restricted at the point in time because Venezuela, like the Dragon gas deal, was restricted because Venezuela was under the control of a wanted man, Maduro, for some serious crimes. At the end of the day, now, even though democracy hasn't been restored in Venezuela, diplomatic relations between America and Venezuela is being normalized, and therefore we can benefit significantly as well without having to face sanctions.
Wednesday, April 15, 2026 weather report for Trinidad and Tobago. The weather is expected to be fair, hazy, and breezy with a high temperature of 28 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius and a low around 24 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius. While generally sunny, there are partly cloudy patches that may produce isolated light showers, with the highest chance, around 40%, occurring during the morning and midday hours. Key metrics and maritime conditions. Heat index. It will feel significantly warmer than the actual temperature, with a predicted heat index of up to 34 degrees Celsius. Wind. Expect easterly winds between 8 to 40 kilometers per hour. Humidity. Levels will range from 60% to 85%. Seas. Slight to moderate conditions are expected, with waves in open waters reaching 1.5 meters to 2.0 meters and remaining below 1.0 meters in sheltered areas. Sunrise and sunset. The sun will rise at 5:51 a.m. and set at 6:14 p.m.
Regional news now. As research continues on La Soufre volcano, Professor Richard Robertson of the UE Seismic Research Center is assuring the public that there is no unusual activity at the summit. This comes as overseas scientists and researchers from 6 universities are currently on island, working to better understand the volcano 5 years after its last major eruption. Professor Robertson also commended NEMO, not Finding Nemo, for the advanced work already being carried out, noting that the agency is now even better prepared to respond to disasters and hazards. I hope they really are prepared, because if it happens again, you have to make sure that everybody is evacuated safely in time, so all lives are safe and secured and saved.
I'd just like to tell the people in St. Vincent and Grenadines, nothing is happening at the volcano. We're not here because we think something is happening. You don't have to start to get worried that we're hiding anything. The volcano is as it is in between eruptions, as quiet as ever. A beautiful place to go and visit. I'd encourage you to go and visit. If you're not sure about the trail, make sure you carry a guide, because it's a place that, you could get lost and things like that. Okay? Check national parks. Yes, that's the gentleman. We are here because a long time ago, some sensible people decided that we needed to have a set of people on the island, in the islands, who have some knowledge about volcanoes to monitor the hazards that exist. We exist in a region which is impacted by multiple hazards, and St. Vincent is not, Michel and Nemo is now one of the most experienced disaster management agencies in the region, because they've been hit by pandemic, by eruption, by flood, by hurricane. So we're well practiced, and therefore we need to make sure that both we keep the practice going and we share the knowledge also with the rest of the region. We should have lots of experts here who could show the region how we manage things. And one of the fundamental things we have to do is work more closely with the community. So I'm glad to see the community members here.
Yesterday, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works in Guyana, Madanlal Ramraj, visited lots 1 to 3 of the Palmyra Mulsanne Creek Highway Expansion Project in Region 6 to assess progress and engage contractors and engineers, making sure that the contractors are doing their jobs. Like here in PNM country for the past 9.5 years, contractors got to do whatever they wanted until they lay for years and then ask for more money and all kind of nonsense. Irfan Ali administration continues to do an exceptional job in Guyana. Works continue steadily on the $15.1 billion four-lane development, developing their country's infrastructure. And this is after the election, so it wasn't about any election gimmick. Unlike the PNM here in Trinidad and Tobago, who only does any type of work when it's time for election. Major crimes have declined in St. Thomas, Jamaica, and the police in the parish are commending the cooperation of citizens in their crime-fighting efforts. Speaking during the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation's monthly meeting in Morant Bay on Thursday, newly appointed commanding officer for the Jamaica Constabulary Force, St. Thomas Division Deputy Superintendent of Police Rohan Ritchie, reported that 3 murders have been recorded in the parish since the start of 2026. Those 3 is still a lot, but it seems as though it's significantly less than what usually would be taking place in that area. We continue to pray for Jamaica, just like how we continue to pray for Trinidad and Tobago, that the crime will be significantly reduced. But as I keep saying, and I've been saying this for a long time now, yes, we need to be able to enforce laws better in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to reform the TTPS, most of all, the corrupt TTPS, and mandate that body cams are worn at all times, just like in Jamaica, to prevent extrajudicial justice from taking place. But what we need to address in both our islands is gang culture, which is the common denominator. People have been indoctrinated into embracing a life of crime and drug use. Weed, yes, weed, the false god of the whole entire Caribbean and the world at this point in time. America loves weed as well. That drug. We need to go back to the times back in the 80s and the early 90s where we said, say no to drugs. Not only encouraging youths to be smoking the herb and destroying their minds. Those are the issues we need to be focused on. And I will talk about this quickly here. On the ground report this morning, they were talking about charging parents for the youth's delinquent behavior in school. It has to have a thorough investigation in order to be able to do that. You have to be able to determine if the parents are actually encouraging that, if they are going into schools and acting like bad man and bad woman as well. And if they are involved in any sort of criminal activity or gang activity at home. Otherwise, you cannot just be doing that. Counseling sessions and stuff like that. Yes, I understand. And that's important. But a lot of the times, these youths, you never heard about Andy Williams. I mean, I agree with you with a lot of different things. But Andy Williams, at the end of the day, there's something called peer pressure. We all did it. All back in all the different generations, I'm sure, including your generation, Andy Williams. Parents believe you're doing wonderful things in school and outside them. Not knowing you're living a completely different life outside of your eye because of peer pressure. You are being influenced by bad company. And they could go searching in your phones all they want. They could do this, they could do that. That is their responsibility. Yes, I'm not saying not to do that. Make sure to be searching your kids' phones all the time. Every day, in my opinion. And also their bags, to make sure nothing is coming home that shouldn't be there. But at the end of the day, youths, just like in our times, will find ways to get around that, to be able to continue living their secret lifestyle. They will delete everything, all the messages, all the WhatsApp messages, everything on their phones. They will memorize certain numbers, so they wouldn't have to have it in the contacts and so forth. In order to live their double lifestyle, you can't just go imprisoning parents because of the actions of these young adults. That's the thing about it, Andy Williams. These are not just little children. These are not babies. These are young adults. And they have chosen to follow a certain path. As I said before, don't get me wrong. If the parents are involved in certain types of lifestyles and promoting gang culture and weed smoking and stuff like that, and even allowing their children to be smoking weed, these youths, then you could have an issue with them. But you can't just be going and imprisoning parents because of the actions of their children. That I cannot agree with at all. Grand Lucayan saga in Bahamas. Demolition has officially begun at the Grand Lucayan Resort, marking a major step towards its transformation into an MSC beach club and mixed-use resort development. Developers Concord Wilshire Capital say initial works include securing and fencing the property following the approval of all necessary permits. The official complete date has been announced, and of course, most likely this will assist in boosting tourism in that area.
So Concord Wilshire, which is the parent company of Ancient Waters Bahamas, the now owner of the Grand Lucine Resort, announcing last night that demolition activities have commenced here on the property. Now we are standing here in the center of this massive property where we can see teams are now working to erect a fence around this small portion of the development. And we understand that only this piece that you see here on your screens will be demolished, and we understand that that demolition could happen as early as Saturday, but still not much details as it relates to that. We understand that this demolition is just the starting phase of the MSC Beach Club that is supposed to be built here on this property. Now, the Prime Minister did speak about it last night at the rally in West Grand Bahama. Here's what he had to say.
You all see the MSC announcement this week? Yes. Like I've said all along, it's real. Despite the noise in the market, it's real. I don't talk fool. If I say it's real, it's real. Now, there's been some frustrating moments. Yes, I admit that. But it's been a long time coming. But it's coming. But we worked hard to make sure it is worth the wait.
And we did reach out to the Office of the Prime Minister for more clarity on this development, but we haven't gotten much information from them. But this is a story we will continue to follow.
Barbados Minister of Education Transformation Chad Blackburn recently addressed the 52nd Annual General Conference at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center, noting the reinstatement of terms, leave, and announcing a new national awards initiative. President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Rudy Lovell, also spoke, acknowledging recent measures while outlining areas for continued attention, including school environments, timely salary payments, really important, access to resources, and student behavior. We were talking about that just now there. And emphasizing the importance of ongoing dialogue and support for teachers' well-being. That's really important. A lot of the times these teachers endure a lot of stress, a lot of stress. And that's why I'm so happy with our Prime Minister, Kamala Persad here in Trinidad and Tobago. All delinquents, all zesters and badders do not belong in schools. You want to give them an education, give them it, and give them and reform these young individuals, these youths, do it outside of the school system.
It's a great honor to give you and bring you regards on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Transformation. Notwithstanding, as I was saying to Gilbert just now, as you can see, I'm not on the agenda, but you should always be prepared. And I certainly am. But I'm heartened for a number of reasons. The relationship, of course, through the years between government and our unions, and in particular, in this instance, the BUT, continues to be one that is anchored on a robust nature. But I must say, and I want to say this publicly, that the BUT continues to be a partner in education and also continues to represent the interests of the country's teachers incredibly well. I want to say but this is just, of course, one cog in the entire picture, or one part of the picture. The question now becomes, how do we ensure that our country's teachers not only have the rest and the pause, but to give you the necessary tools that will allow you to now be competitive globally. And why do I say this? There is no secret that the Ministry of Education Transformation has had a very bold agenda in being the #1 education system in the world within the next 6 years. Last year it was 7, or it's 6 because we're in a new year. But being #1 in the world also means that all of the moving parts in education must be #1.
While the BUT is committed to protecting the rights of our members, we must be more than an industrial relations body. We see ourselves as a partner in national development, and we call on stakeholders to continue to see us as such, by including the union in all discussions on education policy, reform, transformation, and broader national development. Our membership is diverse, comprising highly qualified professionals who bring immense value to any dialogue on improving education in Barbados. Teaching remains one of the most intellectually and emotionally demanding professions. In recent years, teachers' workloads have increased significantly, from expanded online reporting requirements in all schools to the addition of extra teaching periods in primary schools this academic year. The constant cycle of lesson planning, classroom management, and student assessment inevitably leads to fatigue and burnout. That is why the provision of term vacation leave is not a luxury, but a necessity. It allows teachers to recharge mentally and physically, helping to prevent chronic stress, anxiety, and other health issues, while improving overall job satisfaction and performance. At long last, the battle to have term vacation leave reinstated to its pre-2014 state has ended favorably for teachers. This was confirmed by a meeting with the Ministry of Education Transformation on the 30th of March 2026, followed by correspondence the same day from the Permanent Secretary, which referenced correspondence from the Ministry of the Public Service and Talent Development, indicating the restoration of this benefit to its pre-2014 status. The BUT fought this battle with the assistance of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados. We took the matter to court, highlighted the issue through various media outlets, and even took industrial action. It would be remiss of me if I did not acknowledge former President Pedro Shepherd and the other members who started the process by taking the matter to the law court. I particularly commend our members for standing firmly with the union and advocating for this restoration. Give yourselves a round of applause.
International news now. On April 14th, 2026, the Trump administration began construction of the Northeast Supply Enhancement Pipeline at Floyd Bennett Field, a 25-mile underwater project designed to deliver 400,000 decatherms of natural gas daily to approximately 2.3 million homes. Now, that is wonderful news. Projected to be operational by late 2027 when he's still in office, the pipeline aims to reduce average household energy costs by up to $2,300 annually, while providing a $1 billion economic boost, despite ongoing environmental debates regarding its impact on marine ecology and state climate goals. Oh gosh. Once they do it safe properly, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. I fully support protecting our natural environment. So that's why I said once it's done properly and safely, you shouldn't have an issue about it. U.S. Central Command Center says the naval blockade on Iran is enforced by the U.S. and in the last 24 hours, no ship has violated the siege, because everybody was saying, oh, you can't stop China and you can't stop this one and you can't stop that one. Well, let's see. Let's see. 6 ships were instructed to turn back due to the blockade and complied with the instructions. It's for their own safety at the end of the day, right about now, that areas are war zone. And also, Iran allegedly, they're saying that they did, the Ayatollah regime placed mines and so forth in the water. So the Americans, and probably along with some other countries later on, and probably even Israel, are trying to secure the Strait of Hormuz at this point in time. So why would you want to use that passage area? And then, of course, they're trying to prevent the Ayatollah and the IRGC in Iran from extorting money from these ships. I'm so happy to see that the Trump administration isn't actually approving of this $2 million tax or fee. Now for the interesting facts segment. Costco's return policy continues to surprise shoppers years later. A viral story claims a customer returned their TV bought back in 2002. Do not hear in Trinidad and Tobago, now, boy. The kind of words you will hear from the managers and the workers in that store. My goodness, I and all will tell you what I need to tell you. And the store accepted it. Yes, people, they accepted it. While today's electronics are covered by a stricter 90-day, much stricter, man, 90-day return window, older purchases once fell under far more flexible rules. Well, I can understand flexible. I can understand even a little 2 months. You talk about years upon years. You're talking about 2 decades. That kind of customer-first approach has helped Costco build strong trust and long-term loyalty among members across the U.S. Moments like these spark debate. Is it great service or going too far? Going way too far. That's craziness. That's craziness. As I said before, that customer should have tried that here in Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, Lord Father. I don't even want to say what would be said. I can't say what would be said.
Welcome to Real Conservative News Travel Adventures. The Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. stands as the world's largest museum and research complex, offering an unparalleled journey through human achievement and the wonders of the natural world. Comprising 21 museums and the National Zoo, the majority of these landmarks are situated along the iconic National Mall. Because admission is free at every location, it remains one of the most accessible and educational travel destinations for families and solo travelers alike. Visitors can explore a vast array of historical treasures, such as the original Star-Spangled Banner at the National Museum of American History or the pioneering aircraft of the Wright brothers at the National Air and Space Museum. For those interested in cultural heritage, the National Museum of the American Indian and the National Museum of African American History and Culture provide deep insights into the diverse stories that have shaped the nation. Beyond history, the National Museum of Natural History showcases the intricate beauty of the physical world, from the glittering Hope Diamond to massive displays of wildlife from various continents. Navigating the Smithsonian is straightforward, as most museums are within walking distance of one another. The Smithsonian Castle serves as an ideal starting point, providing maps and background on the institution's founding. To make the most of a visit, travelers should be aware that some high-traffic locations require free-timed entry passes reserved in advance. Whether you are admiring the presidential portraits at the National Portrait Gallery or observing the giant pandas at the National Zoo, the Smithsonian offers an inspiring look at the creativity, history, and life that define our world. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you again tomorrow as our journey around the world continues.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all. In Jesus' name.